Hi everyone, welcome to the Farm Journal. Mark Merrill here. Which media outlet should Maine voters trust in November, folks, on LD Bill 2239? What do you think? The ongoing battle between constitutional laws and just plain demand and divide lawfare may have finally been decided, where the latest leftist radical special rights deflectocrats have, again, come out screaming and making their transgender and LGBTQA push through Governor Mills and Secretary of State Bellows in their offices, this time to alter the wording of the proposed LD-2239 referendum. Ready? Well, this is what it is, folks. Right as we start off the program and get rolling, it is an act to designate school sports participation and facilities by sex. Again, an act to designate school sports participation and facilities by sex, not gender. So we go on. If you go into it, folks, online, you can find it. Everybody can find it, and we'll make sure you have links for it, folks. Go to line 17. Subsection 4017, participation in intergalactic and competitive sports, privacy in facilities. Section 1 is on short title, which you may remember, folks, is the Protect Girls' Sports in Maine Act. Definition is paragraph 2. Sex means a person's biological status as male or female recorded at birth on the person's original birth certificate. How can you argue that? I know. A lot to get to, folks. We're moving on. Paragraph 3, designation of athletic teams. A, males, boys or men. B, females, girls or women. Or C, coeducational or mixed. Oh, it's specific, folks. 4, eligibility. Paragraph A under 4 for eligibility is athletic teams designated for females, girls, or women must be restricted to students whose sex is female. B, athletic teams designated for males, boys, or men must be restricted to students whose sex is male. Paragraph 5, before we get to the real important part of it, all of this is important, privacy in facilities is paragraph 5. Public school shall maintain separate restrooms, locker rooms, shower rooms, and other private spaces for each sex. A member of one sex may not be permitted to use a facility designated for members of the opposite sex. We keeping up, folks? I'm so glad you are. Don't mean to be sarcastic. But before we get to some videos here, are some important announcements by both sides of the issue. As we come to you with our journal about which media outlet should Maine voters trust in November on LD Bill 2239. On paragraph 6, there it is, folks, paragraph 6. Under the LD 2239. It says, construction with Maine Human Rights Act, separation of athletic teams and private spaces by sex under this section does not constitute unlawful discrimination under Title V, Chapter 339, that's Maine law. We're talking about Title IX, federal law. This is to make absolutely, positively, once and for all, sure that we're talking about biological men and women separate in athletic participation that has got nothing to do with gender. effective date, folks, the Act takes effect January 1st, 2027. It will be on the November ballot in 2026. Now, get to a little bit more emphasis on this, folks. We have Katrina Smith coming up. And her announcement, along with the Maine House Republicans, took place on April the 13th. And here, as we present it to you now, is how it went.
Statement. As we all know, Secretary of State Bellows is running for governor at this time. We truly feel that this issue is only pandering to her base and not looking to protect our girls. We think that this should be decided by the voters with clear language, and we encourage people to go to the Secretary of State's page or to make public comment at publiccomment.sos@maine.gov and tell Secretary Bellows how this question should be framed, that it should be clear and concise, not talk about things like suing schools, which has nothing to do with this question. We're asking people to go to that and also to be involved in a public hearing that's happening tomorrow, which Representative Poirier here will speak about.
That was April 14th is when it took place.
I'm Jennifer Poirier. I represent House District 70, which is Skowhegan, and I'm also the ranking Republican on the Judiciary Committee. For about the past month or so now, I've been working with chairs of Judiciary and also with the Speaker of the House to actually have this public hearing take place. I'm pleased to say that it is scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. and this is a great opportunity for the public to come and share their views one way or another on this referendum issue. As we've seen in the past, and an example is the red flag referendum, the majority party has tried not to hold these public hearings. So it's very important to know that that is part of the process. There is a law in Title 21A, Chapter 11, about initiated questions having to have a public hearing. So this is part of that process. And then the process continues, and you can actually see it on the state's website as well, the Road to Referendum, which dictates that these referendums need to have a public hearing. They need to have a work session, and they need to be voted on the floor. So I beg to question why the Democrats are so against holding a public hearing or having a vote on the floor to let their voters and the public know where they stand on this issue. So I do look forward to having that public hearing tomorrow. And again, I encourage everybody to come attend the public hearing. You can testify in person, you can testify via Zoom, or you can submit written testimony online. We do have senators here that would like to speak to this issue as well. Stacey Garrett, you want to come up?
Thank you. Hello, I am.
And that is the way that one went, folks. We just wanted to give you a quick excerpt from it and segment.
Take a quick break from
and we are going to move along to some others that we do have coming up from some other people that are going to give us some information in detail about this, both pro, in support of, and against. Moving on here, folks, as Firm Journal presents which media outlet should Maine voters trust in November on LD Bill 2239. Hopefully you're getting a good one right now, folks. But this next one, folks, we have here is We the People of the Law at Firm, Fairness in Reporting Media. We spoke to one of the supporters of LD 2239 after she gave her testimony to the Joint Judicial Committee on April 14th. And we will get that to you right now. Her name is Sophie Fry. is, ma'am?
Sophia Pride.
Can I have you step up a little bit?
Yeah, I got
Go
you.
ahead.
Sophia Pride.
Sophia, okay, where are you from?
Falmouth, Maine.
Falmouth. So you testified in support of?
Yes.
Okay, LD-2239, I have it right.
Correct.
So far, so good. What was your reason for the support of it?
Yeah, so I'm a former female athlete. I used to do club swimming and high school swimming, and this is just a topic I've known about for a very long time. I've been involved in politics since I was a freshman or sophomore in high school,
Yeah.
and it was mostly because of Riley Gaines' story, and
yeah.
she's also a swimmer, obviously.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I've looked up to her for a very long time, and hearing her story was just shocking to me. I never thought anything like that could happen, and it was something I never even really heard of at the time. And then it started happening at my high school. We had biological males like going into the locker rooms or the bathrooms, and it was just kind of a surprise and a shock. And I have a younger sister where in elementary school they would also allow that to happen. And I'm a very protective older sister, so that's something that I just wouldn't want to have to expose my younger sister to. I think that's kind of bizarre, honestly, especially at that age. They don't really know how to share their opinion or even say things because this isn't something they should even have to worry about, honestly. And just as a swimmer in general, like seeing other sports have girls where they lose state championships or medals or titles, all of this it was really just shocking to see. And I didn't have to deal with it in my sport, luckily, but I'm definitely sympathetic toward all the girls that did have to experience it, especially the ones who were injured from it and just having effects that were kind of more long-term than anything. And I think there's a lot of hesitation to talk about the mental aspect of it as well, just because there's a lot of women who've been exposed to things that are really traumatic. And even though we can be sympathetic toward these people that don't necessarily want to represent themselves as whatever their biology is, there's still an aspect to it where we need to respect how women are able to handle it mentally as well.
Sure.
So I think there's always two sides to an issue, but I'm definitely in support of it just because of my background and everything.
Do you think with the whole thing on both sides of the issue is like an indoctrination from those who want to see things opposite of the Constitution?
Could you explain that further?
I mean, the opposite of Title IX, which pretty much has guaranteed women's sports, biological women since 1972. But do you see that there's been an indoctrination to get to this point with the opposite, being in favor of this sort of a bill?
Yeah, so there's always culture wars with any issue, obviously. There's people that support
it's a big one. It's
people
the whole
against it, and with this one, this is definitely a very big culture issue. There's the
out of town. Would you say out of town and out of state money?
I wouldn't necessarily talk on that aspect of it.
Okay.
But I do think there's a lot of people who want to they want to try and skew what we're trying to do for work. I'm a spokesperson for the issue, and there's definitely a lot of people who want to try and make it seem like we have bad intentions. And I'm always on the aspect of, I think both sides have intentions that are necessarily beneficial to whatever party they're trying to support. I'm very much I will happily go sit with someone that disagrees with me and talk to them about it, because I think it's really important to have these conversations and maybe find a middle ground. Even if we disagree on everything inherently, we're both human. There's got to be something we agree on. So I think it's really important to kind of take a step back and realize, sure, we're working on two opposite causes, but at the same time, we're just trying to protect rights. And I think it's important to know, I believe my side of the issue because of biology, and the other side is maybe more on the side of social just constructs and everything. And I think it's kind of up to the people to decide which argument makes more sense. And in my opinion, I think it's kind of a shame that the media tries to skew what we say so often and kind of take clips from it or kind of take it out of context, just because there's a lot of women who support this issue. So why are we trying to make the woman look bad? I don't really see the point in that. I think if anything, it's more constructive just to kind of sit down and talk about it instead of trying to make people fight against each other. And honestly, we have the majority opinion. It's an 80-20 issue. It feels more like it's the opposite because the media is really good at pushing out that other agenda. And I really think it's a shame because there's a lot of young women that are trying to work hard to get their voices out there. And there's only so many opportunities to do something like that. And if I was a proponent for the opposite side, I'd be a hero. So it's just interesting to see the hate I get or the comments I get. And I'm not a hateful person. I'll happily understand that people are not comfortable in their body. That is fine. I dress the way I do because that's what I feel comfortable in. I have long hair because that's what I like. There's women with really short hair because that's what they want to have. That's not my business. They can do whatever they want. It's their freedom to do things as long as it doesn't influence me or my safety.
Oh, I understand that. So one last quick one. In the opposition, okay, do you think they're looking for special rights?
I would say sometimes, on other podcasts I've been on, I have a little frustration because it feels like they're trying to elevate a group at the expense of another group. And one of the facts I talk about all the time is there's about 20 to 30,000 female athletes in the state of Michigan. And a lot of people like to talk about how there's, I don't know, 2 or 3 like recorded experiences of transgender athletes competing. But why don't we talk about all the bathroom situations, all the locker room situations, and why is 2 or 3 not enough? Like, why isn't that enough? Because it affects more than 2 or 3 girls. It affects whole sports teams.
For sure.
It affects a lot of people. It affects more than just the sports teams. It affects girls who want to compete and are worried about potentially having to compete against this person or not being good enough. I mean, I was telling another reporter earlier on swim team, we'd all practice together, the boys and girls. We wouldn't compete against each other. But we do practice races, and it was fun. Like, it was great. I think it's great to have that competition.
Intramural kind of thing, yeah.
And just in high school, like, during practice, we'd go off the blocks and just do that. But then, in terms of actual competition, I did club swimming the majority of the year except for summer. And all my guy friends never did club swimming. They only did high school, and they would always beat me in every single race, regardless. And so I think that says a lot to the fact that people don't necessarily realize just the inherent advantages, biological advantages males can have over women. And I love all my guy friends. I think they're great. It's good fun. I'm glad they swim so fast. But it's interesting to see how, you know, their form's not as good as mine, but they're still so much faster. And it's quite literally because of muscle density and just longer limbs and everything like that. So I think it's important to just take note of those things and know that, you know, nobody here is really trying to be hateful in any way. We're just trying to protect ourselves. And, you know, there's definitely ways to make these people feel included with co-ed and gender-neutral spaces, but that doesn't mean I'm not a woman. You know, there's different distinctions. That's why they're trans, and that's okay. We're okay with those things. But I just think it's important to know, like, there's different categories for different reasons, and we have to, you know, understand that and, you know, talk about it. Because it's okay to be different. Like, that's the best part of being human, is being different and, you know, expressing yourself however you like.
For sure. Well, thank you very much for your time. Good luck, and we certainly hope, from our point of view, from our point of view at Firm, we're fairness and reporting media, and we are defenders of the First Amendment and truth, facts, reality, common sense, just so you'll know where we're at. And we cover all of Greater Waterville area, Skowhegan. We're working into Bangor. We're down here at the State House all the time. And just want to make sure that people get heard and get to hear the right thing.
Well, if you have a contact card, Molly and I, we're both in charge of clubs at University of Maine that do political things. So if you ever have any interest coming on campus or anything.
And we thank Sophie for her time there today, on that day, on April 14th, when the vote was taken. We just have one more segment here, folks, to go over. Actually, a couple. But before we continue, just to remind you, we are reporting on today the Journal, Firm Journal, which media outlet should Maine voters trust in November when it comes to the referendum on LD Bill 2239. So the far left-wing radicals held their own press conference on April 14th before the hearings were taken to support a group. Here's that one, folks, real quick, called the Campaign for Free and Fair Schools. Basically, as you can see here in the headline from the Beacon, a real non-reliable media organization. As a matter of fact, they are a member of the Maine People's Alliance, as we speak here. But the far right is blaming a billionaire getting involved, backing, you know, the extreme to have Maine voters lean their way or his way so they can get the bill passed and still uphold the law of the Constitution in the country. And that's not the case, folks. This is the Beacon spinning their little narratives and nastiness to get their way to have the transgenders be part of getting special rights on this. And they started getting a little bit ticked off as far as the kids, but they don't say transgender kids, as you'll see in this video, an announcement coming up by one of their campaign managers. And says that the transgender kids would be open up to harassment, strain in schools, and cost parents money. So with that said, folks, we've got our next person who's going to line up here for you.
It's crazy early for crazy politics, but here we are. My name is David Farmer, and I'm the campaign manager. I'm going to pause for just a moment. That's fine.
Let's try another one, folks. Just a moment here.
Richard Uline. He's a billionaire from the Midwest who makes boxes and beer, and not particularly good beer. He spent nearly $1 million paying signature collectors to place this question on the ballot in November. It would be reasonable to ask, why does this out-of-state billionaire care so much about Maine? My opinion, he doesn't. He cares about power and money and right-wing ideology. And to support that, he's willing to target kids, Maine kids, our kids, to get what he wants. He's one of a few men that has spent millions of dollars supporting Republican gubernatorial candidate Garrett Mason. He spent millions of dollars, same man, in an attempt to defeat U.S. Representative Jared Golden. And he's part of a billionaire cabal that's willing to spend untold millions of dollars to send Susan Collins back to the United States Senate. He thinks that putting this question about trans kids on the ballot, he'll help these politicians in November. And that's also why politicians like Laurel Libby have started a PAC, raising money from different billionaires to support Senator Collins' re-election.
No, she didn't.
Wonder what issue she'll focus on. In 2025 in New Jersey and Virginia, about half of every dollar spent on advertising by Republican candidates.
This needs to stop for a moment here, folks. I mean, we really did do our research here at Firm. And before we let this video continue on, I just want to point out that Mr. Farmer here, a campaign manager for this Campaign for Free and Fair Schools, basically is saying and blaming politicians on the right, naming Laurel Libby and the support of the governor's seat candidacy of Garrett Mason is full of crap. Talk about dodging the issue. It's got nothing to do with it. All they're looking for, folks, as you can see on the banner there, is they want to stop the bullying. Don't let the billionaires bully. Don't let the billionaires bully Maine kids. Posters and posers there, right alongside, of course. Also, folks, tick, 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 tick. Want to notice that these blamers left out the word transgender kids on their placards. Typical, huh? Sympathy. They're victims known as transgender kids, and they need special rights. So they don't believe in the Constitution is what it's all about, folks. We'll give him one more chance, folks. So he goes to describe this to the general public.
My name is David Farmer, and I'm the campaign manager. I'm going to pause for just a moment. That's fine. New Senator.
little bit of a technical problem with one of the media's microphones, so they're straightening it out. They tried to skip over this, but they'll get right to what Mr. Farmer has to say. Here we are.
I'll start again. My name's David Farmer. I'm the campaign manager for the Campaign for Free and Fair Schools. What that means is that's the ballot committee that is formed to oppose the ballot question that's being heard on the fourth floor today, which is LD-2239. That is the anti-trans bill that was initiated. Joining me today are a bunch of smart folks. We have 4 speakers who will come up after me, and they'll go into the details of the legislation. I'll ask each of them to introduce themselves as they come forward.
Once again, taking everything out of context, it's not anti-transgender. Mr. Farmer, or anyone else that stands up to that podium. We did stay through the press conference, which was about a half hour before the actual hearings took place at the Judiciary Committee on the 4th floor of the state capitol in Augusta. Any kind of slam they want to try and get against it, folks, that's what they're going to try. Hold your breath for just a little bit. Take a few sips of caffeine. Get through this last segment of it.
But I wanted to start today with a message. Every transgender kid and every transgender adult in this state who might happen to hear my words. We see you. You are loved. You are not alone. And the world is better because you are in it. Now, I'd like to provide a little political context about the ballot question that we're likely to see this fall. The issue was placed in fall.
Well, it's a good thing it actually ended there, folks, because we do have to get along and have another segment coming up here. And it's from one of the Judiciary Committee members. And we'll get to her in just a moment as we continue on here with our journal about which media outlet should Maine voters trust in November on LD Bill 2239, an act to designate school sports participation and facilities by sex. That's all it is. That's all it reads. That's all it has to it, folks. So coming up here momentarily, folks, after this little segment here from the Campaign for Free and Fair Schools, tried to make you think that laws for biological males and females are making transgenders and any other kids who participate in school sports in the entire state of Maine are victims. Wrong. It's a bias. It's a narrative. It's making the transgender kids look that way by them. And they want to blame a billionaire who supported biological males and females. We'll get to that in another episode of Firm as we talk about the bill LD-2239 and which media outlets should Maine voters trust in November. You certainly know already which ones to stay away from, and the fact that you certainly should stay with the Maine Wire, the Maine Policy Institute, and ours, with yours truly, Mark Merrill with Firm, Fairness in Reporting Media, about truth, facts, reality, and common sense. Now, in conclusion, to get on with our last segment, folks, on our journal, we also spoke with Judiciary Committee Republican member Rachel Henderson. Right here, her name, on the Judiciary Committee, one of the few Republicans, dang it, to give all Maine people a reality check on the hearing after all the testimonies in support of and opposed to the bill. thank you very much for your time. You are?
My name is Rachel Henderson.
Okay, and what's your position on the Judiciary Committee?
So I serve as a House member. I represent a group of towns in Oxford County, and I serve on the Judiciary Committee, House member.
Okay, what's your opinion, or what's your view as to what occurred today, as far as the hearings, as far as opposition and support of the bill?
Yeah, a lot of people showed up, honestly, on both sides of the issue. A few people testified via Zoom, but a majority of people showed up in person. Both sides of the issue articulated their positions quite respectfully. There were some premises and some statements that were made, obviously, I didn't agree with, but it's always great when an issue like this that is very polarizing, that people are passionate about on both sides of the issue, that both sides can show up, sit down in a room together, passionately share their arguments, and things can stay civil. So I was glad that I was a part of this today.
Okay, great. Where do you see this coming? Are there going to be any more hearings at this point? I know we're closing in on July 1st here.
No, this is the only public hearing. There won't be a work session for it. This is something that will show up on the ballot in November, and the people of the state of Maine will have an opportunity to vote on.
Okay. Would you care to make a prediction on that as to which way it might go, or?
I've never been one for predictions or guessing the outcomes, but based on the conversation I've heard, people from across the spectrum are really in support of ensuring that girls and women are protected in private spaces. So I would presume that if the Secretary of State decides to do the right thing here and allows this to be put on the ballot in November, that we're going to see an overwhelming support.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate your time.
Of course.
Thank you very much for your time. You are?
My name is Rachel.
So we thank Rachel for that, and also her time and service on the Judiciary Committee, as well as a state representative for quite a few years. We didn't get the amount of number of years that she has served with the Maine legislature. But what we will do, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up this program, all about which media outlet should Maine voters trust in November on LD Bill 2239. And as we swing things over, to let you know exactly who we are, our organization, and I'm sure many of you have seen our car around central Maine, if not only in the Waterville area and many of the communities around here, but also the communities in Skowhegan, and we're pushing north into Bangor, many of the communities outlying there, and we're always in Augusta at the State House, as you can tell. Not just there, but hopefully getting around to some of the other communities in and around the greater Augusta area. But for right now, the focus is on the legislature wrapping up business. And it's getting kind of desperate for the Democrats, if you don't mind my saying so, folks. So in the meantime, pray for our passage of LD 2239 in the referendum coming up in the fall. And also for change in our legislature. The Blaine House, the House and the Senate, many of our departments need lots of change as well, folks. Stay safe in the meantime. Peace to all.